Welcome everybody to History International Film Festival Austria of this year's edition 2024. We are here with our next film called Babushka. The creator behind the film is Simon Höbert, who is with us here in the interview. Simon, welcome to our festival and thanks for doing an interview with us.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to meet you guys.
Simon, would you be so kind and tell us a little bit about your film Babushka?
All right, Babushka was made during a master's project at Salzburg University of Applied Science 1 year ago, actually. And the idea of this film came to me while I was doing actually an internship during my bachelor studies. I worked on a historical program where we interviewed the last contemporary witnesses of World War II and the time after the war. And having these interviews with these people really affected me and resonated in my head. This film is actually a combination of different stories I heard during this time, and also from my grandpa, whose father never returned from the war. Like, he went to Russia and he never came back, but his family was always awaiting him. So the picture you see in the film of the soldier in the very beginning is actually the original picture of my grandfather who did not return from the war.
It's great when films got a personal connection with the filmmaker. The themes you worked into the film, could you tell us a little bit about them?
Yeah, it's the theme is about prejudice, and I see that prejudice is one of these themes that goes through history and through humankind, and I think it's one of the most exciting themes to work on because it can teach us so much about ourselves and how we behave with other people, how we greet them, and how we accept or not accept them because of prejudices. So of course, this grandma in the film, she only knows this bad side. She knows all the propaganda from Nazi Germany about the Allies. So of course she's very afraid. Also, she lost her son in the war. So what she wants to do is to protect her child, not seeing the Soviet soldiers who are coming as humans, but as enemies who can't be trusted.
Yeah. Usually World War II films or films that are based around the events of World War II depict all the other perspectives, usually more than the Austrian or German perspective. Would you say that it's important for filmmakers that focus on this time and period to give everybody a stage and to diverse a little bit the viewpoint? And do you think there is even a chance for future filmmakers and contemporary filmmakers to show something that hasn't been there by doing so?
Yes, I think this is extremely important because, as I said, like, we are not living in a world that is black and white. Of course, there are regimes and dictators that are totally doing a bad thing, but the humans serving under these people are serving because of different circumstances, and it's very easy for us to break everything down into a black and white scheme. But when we look into a human being, suddenly it's a gray zone, and suddenly there is good and bad in everything. And I think showing especially also the side of Austrians and Germans during the Nazi regime is a very important part in showing the world that also here, like in our countries, there were human beings who were afraid and who didn't know better. So I see it even. I read an article about Quiet on the Western Front. Oh no, not an article actually. It was a comment where people were angry that the German soldiers were depicted as humans. And I thought, okay, this is so crazy because we're still living in this world of prejudices and where we think, okay, all the Germans and Austrians in the bigger sense they are the bad ones in the war, and the Americans are the good ones, or the Allies are the good ones. Usually the Russians also are the bad ones. So I'm very happy to have a part in sharing this specific experience from an Austrian perspective and also from a Russian perspective, to show that also here it was all about human beings. Or in the end, it's human beings that are affected by the war as much as from other countries.
Yeah. In the film, you show you let landscape and the surrounding have a very strong impact on the viewer. Would you say that your film is, by showing where it is and using this landscape and the atmosphere of it that much, would you say that your film is an Austrian film by the way you did it, or is it more based on film style of other countries or international film styles?
Like, do you have any films that inspired you to make this one?
Yeah, actually no. I like to make films in a slower way, and not be hasty with the cutting in general. I also thought that for this film it's very much needed. It also gets a little bit this art housey style. But yeah, I was talking to my directors of studies, for example, who said that this is very much a Western style film, which I also get, but I didn't think of a Western. An Austrian film that inspired me, but I way too late, or actually now I can't say that it inspired me, but it would probably inspire me if I would have seen it before, would be The Dark Valley. I love this film. I've seen it before, but it was a long time ago. And during the making of Babushka, I thought, oh wait, there's this Dark Valley film. So I watched it, but I was already into production, like way too deep into the production. So the things I got from the Dark Valley, I couldn't even implement them anymore. But there were some cool ideas. I thought, if I would have watched this movie before, it would have been great.
Did that closeness to Russia and its culture give you the idea to include that in your probably more set close to home scenario of the Austrian Alp setting?
Actually not. Even though this is easy to connect, I think it's the Russian, because when you make a film about prejudices and there's the Allied, you take the Allied soldiers who have to be dangerous, then if you take the Americans, nobody will believe you that they are dangerous. So I am actually playing with the prejudices we still have from this time that resonate with us. And when you take the Soviet soldiers, everyone will understand immediately, oh, they are up for no good. So this is the main reason why I took them. Also, when I had these interviews with the contemporary witnesses in Vienna, and many of them were in an area that was occupied by the Soviets. So I heard a lot of stories about the Soviet soldiers. Actually, the Soviet soldiers were the ones who were, I was told, the nicest to children. They gave bread. They were very friendly to children in comparison to other Allied soldiers. And the contemporary witnesses, at times they were tearing up when talking about this stuff. So this interaction with the child in the movie is, for example, inspired by this event. Yeah.
Do you have any other interesting anecdotes you'd like to share from shooting the film? When we watched a few seconds, we saw that the actors were speaking very fluent Russian. Were they native speakers?
Yeah, for me it was very important that if I have Russian, that it's a native speaker. However, only one of them, the old soldier, is a native speaker, which is actually amazing, because I wanted a native speaker to speak German, and he couldn't speak German at all. He had to learn German for this film. I wanted to do it that way because I wanted to give him an authentic accent. So we were learning the German words for him. So he was actually the one actor who couldn't speak German was the one who had to speak German in the film in order to give him an authentic accent. And the actor that could speak German very well, he's actually an Ukrainian, or born in Switzerland. He's a Swiss, but with Ukrainian background. He spoke Russian. And the very cool thing about the Russian he spoke is that we sat together and he said, my mom, actually, she knows how the Soviet, how do I say this? His mom proposed that she would translate the Russian script to Soviet slang from this era. And I thought it's amazing. So they sat down and they took the Russian, because first I translated it, or I wrote it down in German. He translated it to Russian. We talked about it, how it could be said in Russian. And after that, he came and said, my mother proposed to translate this Russian into Soviet slang from this era. I thought this is amazing. I mean, no German or English or whatever viewer will get this, but for the Russian-speaking people, this is a little Easter egg.
That's exactly one of the details that we as a festival take as a very important stepstone to making an authentic piece. It's even in one of our categories of the jury members, one of the most important parts. What is the language spoken in the films, and how did they approach these old languages and the shift through time to them? Simon, we see that you took it very seriously and you did your research also with the contemporary witnesses. Did you show them the film afterwards when it was done?
No, because since I was working at this time, I was working actually for national TV. I was working for ORF3. And so I don't have the data of these people. Also, it was 2 years after I did the interviews, so there was no connection anymore.
Okay. Well, that's sad. You should show those that help you get the information.
Yes.
Are you, as a filmmaker, would you say especially interested now after this experience to continue making films in a historic setting? Or is it just one thing in a toolbox and you'd just as well want to do a film in a contemporary or maybe even future setting?
No, actually, I'm most interested in historical setting. I would love to do a film in the medieval era, because I think that the medieval era is often depicted as completely different than it really was. And what I really miss is authentic armor and authentic clothing and uniforms depicted in the medieval era. So my dream would be to make a Kingdom of Heaven historically correct. In this scale, but until then, I will take my time. I will stay with whatever projects are coming up. This was my second project in the war during World War II or shortly after World War II, and I am about to make another. I'm right now in the writing process of another film during the Spanish Civil War, actually. So I'm trying not to stay in this hole of World War II and expand myself, but I'm most interested in historical stuff. Yeah.
What we wanted to hear.
Yeah, very commendable.
It's a very great answer for our festival as well. We hope that people out there that see your film will start approaching you as well, because we think you did a great job with all the cinematography and how you cut everything together, and also how you constructed the film.
It's very visually appealing, yeah.
And we hope that there will be possibilities for you to connect also through our festival with other filmmakers interested in doing films like this with you together. Is there a way how to contact you if somebody, I don't know, in Vienna or in Germany or maybe in
we've interviewed filmmakers from Israel for your maybe a future collaboration for your Kingdom of Heaven project. And we've just done an interview with a filmmaker who specialized in medieval depiction with armor and everything. So yeah, well, maybe there can be some connections for a future project.
Well, is there a way to connect with you?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you put the social medias, or if I should just, because since I have an Austrian surname, it's often very misunderstood when I talk about it. But yeah, there's the possibility of connecting through Facebook, Instagram, and email, of course. Yes, email being the most professional, which I probably really take a look into.
So we'll link it when we post your interview online.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you for taking the time.
Thank you, Simon. It was great.